Hello and welcome to Members on the Mic with the Troy Chamber of Commerce, where we connect with Troy Chamber members as they give us a glimpse into their company and share some of the business lessons they've learned along the way. Hi everyone, I'm Tara Thompson-Cusack, President and CEO of the Troy Chamber of Commerce, and I'm joined today by our amazing and lovely co-host and Vice President of the Chamber, Sheila Dunstad.
Hi everyone.
First, I'd like to take a moment to thank our presenting sponsor, Trion Solutions. Make sure you stay tuned for our very first commercial break where you can learn how you can rely on Trion. So Sheila, we have a great guest lined up today, so why don't you tell us a little bit about this person?
Well, I'm very excited to do that. Today, we are meeting with Dr. Joan Haakonstad, owner of Intelligent Office in Troy. Doc Joan prides herself. She also probably provides things also. Yes. Herself on being a lifelong learner, educator, and entrepreneur. Her education and early career path provide a unique insight into business in terms of employee development, sales interactions, client relations, and situational assessment. Her first career was in psych with a specialty in crisis intervention. Fascinating.
Explains so much. If you know you, it explains a lot.
It really does.
Although Doc Joan enjoyed being a shrink, her passion really thrived in the entrepreneurial world. Through her entrepreneurial adventures. Wow, that's a long, fun word.
It's really easy for you to say.
Yeah, yes. I give her the hard stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Doc Joan was introduced to strategic benefits of Intelligent Office firsthand as a client and knew the value of the company she needed to be shared with others. In 2015, she purchased a franchise with her amazing husband, Eric.
Who we love.
I did not put amazing in there,
We did.
by the way.
We added that. So,
where they now work to provide other business owners with front-end administrative and workspace resources. They now own count it, two intelligent offices, one in Troy and one in Bloomington, Minnesota. More importantly, she is a wife and amazing mother of her son and lives in a very loud home and with 2 dogs, 3 birds, and a bird with a great story in Franklin.
I'm not sure I can share that story here.
Yes, I think someone
this
told
could
us
be
we
a second
could.
podcast.
We can. I'm not sure. Didn't know it was that kind of podcast.
Well, thanks. So now I'm going to have the giggles for this one.
Right?
So, thanks, Joan, for joining us today. I guess, obviously, you started off as a shrink.
I did.
And I guess you're still continuing as a shrink in your own way. But
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit how that all transitioned to where you are today?
Absolutely. So yes, I am a reformed and or retired shrink, depending on how you choose to look at it. My specialty, as Sheila said, was crisis intervention. So lethality assessment, so suicidal, homicidal, psychosis, people that were in imminent danger to themselves or others. I would go in, evaluate the situation, and determine what needed to happen to keep either the community safe or the individual safe. That surprisingly led to somewhat of a dangerous situation often where you're corralling people into safety, they get into fight or flight. And so often it turned fight. So we'd have chairs thrown at us, people trying to harm us. I had a stalker for 8 years. But more importantly, they would threaten you. And so when I got married and had the ring on the finger, they not only threatened me, but they threatened my family.
Oh, jeez.
Well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And
It goes with the gig.
absolutely. And I knew nothing different because that was a day at work. So by law, if you are threatened or if somebody else is threatened, you must tell them by law. So I would go home and tell my straight-laced engineer husband, hey, you got to watch your back. He didn't like that all that much.
No.
It was bizarre. I mean, to me, again, it was a day at work. I had a chair thrown
Makes
at
sense.
me today. Did you not? I mean, what's wrong with you?
In the engineering field, I don't think they do that as much.
Didn't do that. You work with an
Pencils and
astronaut and they didn't throw things at you. I don't understand. Can we go back, review this situation? So he actually asked me to retire.
Okay.
So he said, gosh, Joan, I don't really care for this. Could we try something else? I threw kind of a temper tantrum for a while, actually. We moved to Las Vegas, where he ran an aerospace company, and I stayed home and threw a temper tantrum. I was like, I'm not doing anything. So after a little while, I decided, okay, fine. I went and got my real estate license. I love real estate investing. I've literally done it my entire life from birth. My parents flipped homes. We lived in them. We flipped them. So I thought, okay, well, I actually really do enjoy that. Why don't I go ahead and get my license and go out there and enjoy real estate? I sucked. So
I can't imagine.
No, I really did. Remember, I was used to crisis. So I would get called at 9 o'clock at night. I don't want to buy that house because the room is blue.
And then you threw a chair at them.
Right.
And Eric took out the protractor.
Right. Well, let's go ahead and measure the dimensions.
Yeah.
He actually did get lots of gadgets for it, but nonetheless, to me, that was not an emergency. Why are you calling me at 9 o'clock at night to complain about paint? You can paint it. It's really not hard. So I didn't deal well with that. So then I got actually into financial services, and I loved it. I actually excelled. I quickly earned partner in a financial planning company, so my first real entrepreneurial experience, and I absolutely loved it. I actually do continue doing that on the side because I do love it so much. So I do continue to do that. Do not call me for it because I don't want to do that. Just kidding. I love it. But that's actually where I was introduced to Intelligent Office. I was a client. So I had my real estate company and my financial services company there. And I loved it. It ebbed and flowed with me. So as my business expanded, I could expand my resources and the helpfulness that would come from Intelligent Office. When I had a baby, I stepped away, and of course, I shrunk my business a little bit, and they shrunk with me. And so it was an ebbing and flowing that I absolutely loved. And quite frankly, we loved it so much when Eric, my husband, not Ryan, Ryan's my son, when Eric decided it was time to retire and we wanted to actually fulfill that entrepreneurial world, we loved it so much that we bought one.
Your retirement is when you start another company.
Is that not what you do?
It is now.
That's what everybody should do.
I love it.
Retire? What's that mean?
Yeah,
I'm not really sure.
Valid point.
You know, my husband actually does know. He's golfing right now. So he's got the retirement down. I don't think I do quite yet.
It's not really your speed.
It's not. I don't think I could. So no, not at all. Not at all. I think I'd be bored.
Your background, obviously, it's incredible. It varies. How does that help you with working with the variety of business owners, businesses within Intelligent Office?
Great question. So it allows me the ability to come in and just like I did in the shrink world, I would quickly assess the situation, have to come to a positive resolution to keep people safe. Now it's just coming into a situation, evaluating it as quickly as possible, assessing the individual, assessing the business needs, and then coming up with the solutions that will help them thrive so that they can reach their goals, so that they can actually have a positive environment as well. That's what it all comes down to, growth.
What are you seeing, though? Are you seeing, especially post-COVID, post-COVID, what are you seeing?
I am seeing, quite frankly, a variety. So, and there's a difference between what I see in my business in Michigan and what I see in Minnesota. I know that's a question that'll come up later.
Makes sense.
But there's a big difference. So here in Michigan, I see that our target market is actually coming back to the office. They want to work. They want to be in that environment. I'm seeing some different I'm seeing generational differences, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And the younger individuals are actually wanting to stay home more and work from home. They thrive in that environment, and that's what they're used to. Whereas I think the older individuals are used to having that business environment, and they want to be in that business environment where they thrive. So we actually in Michigan are 100% full in our dedicated offices, but that's not really what our target is. We actually target different types of businesses. So what we're actually seeing is our address, our professional address, where people can use a professional business location, our business in the PNC building at 75 in Big Beaver. We're seeing that explode. We're having a lot of people wanting to have a professional environment and a professional address, but not have the expense. So
it builds credibility.
Absolutely it does. And quite frankly, safety and security. As mentioned, stalker, 8 years. Yeah. So people cyber stalk you, and you don't want to have your location or your home
address being showcased everywhere. It makes perfect sense.
Absolutely. So safety as well as professionalism, because people will cyber stalk you. So we are seeing our address services absolutely explode. That allows people to still work at home should they choose to, and or wherever they want to work. We're also seeing our phones explode. So we answer the phone for a lot of businesses in the local area, providing just receptionists. We pride ourselves on being deemed as that receptionist for that business. It's as though we're sitting in front of that individual. You'd never know we weren't. In fact, that's our biggest compliment when people come into the office. I had no idea you were answering the phone for so many other people. That's the goal. We don't want you to. So we answer the phone for a lot of different businesses, and then we also do admin work. So we'll schedule appointments for people. people, do confirmation calls, do outbound calls from web leads, follow up on emails, whatever it is our clients need. Again, we assess their situation, identify what their needs are, and then see how we can fit those needs and help them grow. That's truly our goal. So we're seeing those phones explode. I think it's because it's hard to create that infrastructure where phones are answered at home.
Yeah.
Quite frankly,
You don't want to hear a screaming kid in the background.
Or
or
the dog.
my bird's barking. Or my
bird's barking.
Seriously, my
Back to
one
the
bird.
loud bird again.
Yes, and my one bird does bark, and she also curses. So you don't really want to. Yeah. So working from home is great, and it offers that flexibility. But quite frankly, not everybody's good at it. My husband sucks at it. He is not good. He needs to be around people in that environment. I thrive working at home. I'm good. I can keep myself focused. But answering phones at home is not easy. And so it's easier. And not only that, there's the infrastructure of how do you get the phone lines there? How do you actually redirect them and so on and so forth? We actually spent, when COVID hit, when we knew it was about to happen, we had to completely upgrade our phone system so that we could have that remote answering. Because although we are an essential business, we still had employees there because of the professional address and accepting mail. We had to still have staff there, but we still were able to answer the phones remotely because our staff had to go home. We needed to keep that safety in place as well. So our phones are exploding because there's still that need to answer phones, and many people do not want to answer it from their homes because of the crying baby, the barking dog, and or the talking bird. So
barking, swearing, talking bird.
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Well, her name's Stinky for a reason.
Well, that is my perfect cue to take a quick commercial break and hear a word from our presenting sponsor, Trion Solutions. We'll be right back.
My name is Jenny Brown. I am the CEO of Dutton Farm. We are a nonprofit in the behavioral health system. It is so critical to partner with Trion so that we are not making any HR missteps and able to fully comply with all regulations while also being able to provide benefits and workman's comp and really support our employees in the way that they need. And that's why we rely on Trion.
You can always rely on Trion.
Welcome back to Members on the Mic with the Troy Chamber of Commerce. We're here talking a little bit about Intelligent Office. We're here with Joan. So you mentioned you're seeing more phone and mail, obviously. Let's chat a little bit about the office environment, space, hybrid, remote. Like you said, generational, there's some differences. Yes. I'm personally a huge fan of hybrid because I would literally implode without the interaction of people because that's who we are as a chamber. But I also know we get interrupted nonstop. So it's also nice to take at least 1 or 2 days at home to actually get your work done. So talk us a little bit about what you're seeing in the industry.
So that's a great question. And quite frankly, going to what you just said, when people started going home, they actually saw a study showed a 47% increase in work production because people didn't have those disruptions. Yeah. It takes 2 minutes and 34 seconds to get back on track when you have an interruption. So if you have constant interruptions, add all that time together. Yep. That's unproductive time. Yeah.
Well, and also you don't know when to punch out.
Oh,
I think that's a huge factor of that.
Absolutely. So now we are seeing a difference between Michigan and Minnesota. Here in Michigan, we're seeing a lot of people wanting to be back in that environment, at least in our environment. Yeah. So our office, our meeting space, we have conference rooms. We have a lot of offices that people can use as needed. So we have dedicated and offices to use as needed. We're starting to see that come back a lot. So we track obviously all of the different sources of revenue, and the meetings has been increasing. So this past month we had about a 20% increase in meeting space and usage.
Oh, wow.
Which is fabulous. That's what we want to see. People are coming back.
And together. If it's meeting space, that's fantastic.
Absolutely. Now, interestingly, in Minnesota, we're actually not seeing as many dedicated offices being used. So people are still wanting to be home more. We're also seeing that it's harder to hire people in Minnesota.
Oh, interesting.
The unemployment rate is lower, but that does not mean that people are employed. It just means many people are still not wanting to work in Minnesota. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. But we're finding that it's hard to hire people, significantly harder there. But we're also finding the meeting space is actually being used more often. So although dedicated offices where people are coming in constantly and they have their own office, that is not exploding in Minnesota, which is surprising.
Interesting.
The meeting space well outperforms here in Troy. So Minnesota's meeting, they're having a lot more meetings. But that tells me that people are still working at home more, but they still want to come together often for that collaboration, which is what you're talking about with what you want to do, where you work at home 2 or 3 days a week and come to the office 1 or 2 days. That's what we're seeing a lot more in Minnesota. Now, our target market here in Michigan, they tend to seem to want to come back to the office and actually have that dedicated time where they can get away. Mm-hmm. Now, we'll add to this. We're about to hit summer, right?
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum, bum. So summer, we're seeing that people are actually wanting to get away from kids. So we're starting, right? I know. Mine is amazing. Love you, Ryan. Yep. Never want to get away from you. And I bet you've called me 3 times since I've been here. But I have you muted.
They were love calls.
They were love calls. I miss you. Probably, actually.
I know.
But he's only 11, so he still does that. But now I forgot what I was saying.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I was actually going to...
People trying to get away from their children.
Oh, so we're getting a lot of calls and inquiries on... I just need you for the summer. Can I just come in and have a physical location to be away from my children and actually be able to work? So I think COVID also showed...
Is the answer yes?
The answer, of course, is yes.
Okay, perfect.
Absolutely.
Just making sure.
We will absolutely accommodate your needs. Absolutely. But we're seeing a lot of that right now. So I think COVID also showed that it was hard to have the child in the background because we go back to in the office place. Yes, you have interruptions, but guess what's going to happen when you are home with children and birds and dogs? They interrupt you. So we're seeing a lot of people asking for meetings time offices so that they can
your own break away from your own home office.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
So the other side of it, though, is actually businesses are not willing to pay for it. So we're finding that people are willing to pay for it out of their pocket to do that. So
sanity is worth it.
Yeah.
Sanity is worth it. Who knew?
Who'd have thunk?
Right? I'm a shrink. I mean, what is sanity? So, yeah, there you go.
And just a side, so Minnesota, obviously different season, weather's very different. Do you find that affects things there versus here?
In the winter, absolutely. Their snow has impacted the ability to get to the office a little bit more. But now it's actually beautiful there. People are trying to get out and now they just want to be outside. But I don't see much difference in that arena because I think people are used to it. So they're used to driving to the office in the snow. They're used to the blizzard coming in and they are already prepared for that type of thing. So they leave a little bit earlier.
Well, being prepared.
Yeah.
That works.
What a concept.
It goes right into our favorite segment. Tara.
Oh, dear.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I don't know if I am.
Well, Joan, did you know?
Oh.
I think you might actually know this one.
Did you know segment?
Yeah. Did you know on the first Wednesday of every month, the Troy Chamber hosts a meeting that focuses on professional development called the Leadership Enrichment Group, or LEG for short?
Ooh, that sounds amazing.
It does. You know what? In that group, they cover a variety of topics such as time management, goal setting, finding joy in leadership, and other topics that focus on creating great leaders like yourself.
Oh, my goodness.
I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that Doc Joan may or may not run that particular group and is the mastermind behind this year's agenda.
She sounds amazing.
She is. Well, she is. And if you'd like to see how amazing, please come join us that first Wednesday of every month. And if you'd like to see what topics we'll be covering, please visit www.troychamber.com/events.
Absolutely. And it is a great event. It's a great group. Madonna Van Fossen used to facilitate the meeting with me. You, Sheila, have been instrumental in that. Yeah. So I'm truly grateful for all of the work that you do for us. So thank you so very much.
Your great leadership that has instilled that in me.
Oh, she's full of it.
This is such a
you.
love fest right now. I'm all about this.
Right? Kumbaya.
And now we all know this wonderful topic for Did You Know? So thanks so much. But yes, make sure to join us at one of our leadership enrichment meetings. They're absolutely amazing. I always learn something from it. But again, we're grateful for your leadership in making this move forward.
Oh, I appreciate that. And honestly, just before we transition to something else, we do have phenomenal members in the Troy Chamber.
Yes, yeah.
And everybody has these strengths that they bring to the table. And I'm grateful that the Troy Chamber actually capitalizes on that. In Minnesota, we attempted to join the Bloomington Chamber of Commerce multiple times and never got return phone calls, never had any type of follow-up. Turns out they actually closed, but they still are advertising. We actually stopped by their office, and the office has mail. They still have the office, but nobody's there.
I know of a great place where they could send their mail.
Yeah.
And it would be,
Right?
I'm just saying.
Or
I'm
their
just
phones
saying.
answer.
Throwing
Right?
it out
And
there.
Right? I mean, they have support out there. Absolutely. So not all chambers are made equal. And we are grateful for all of your guys' work, your hard efforts that you put into it. It definitely shows in the commerce here in Troy. So thank you.
Thanks. We
you.
appreciate it. And we're all a little wacky, so it works out well.
It works out super well.
Yeah. We keep it
there's
real.
medication for that.
That's good. I'll call the shrink.
I would say no.
I'm just kidding.
Just say no to the medication.
Wine.
Wine.
Alcohol might be your friend. May
Maybe.
not be. It depends.
We'll see. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. So let's talk a little bit more. We're going to keep going like crazy.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit more about Intelligent Office and how you got it kind of growing in this market segment itself, how you got it to turn around.
Great question. We actually did buy this office when it was upside down. It was not performing well. It was quite frankly about $5,000 to $7,000 upside down every single month.
Wow.
So it was, in my world, fairly significant.
Yeah.
So we did spend a lot of time working on it. We had a lot of personal attention on really focusing to identify who is our target market, what is the needs of our target market, and how can we fulfill those needs. We created a very strong plan, but we weren't rigid in which we were unwilling to leave the plan if we evaluated it ongoing to ensure that the path that we were on was the right path. Is this working, or do we need to make minor tweaks to make it better? I was willing to make mistakes. And quite frankly, I made a ton of mistakes. I don't believe that we can actually grow unless we make mistakes.
Yes.
And more importantly, we learn from them. So what I'm trying to teach my son is that it's not a mistake, it's a learning opportunity. What can you gain from it? Yeah, it sucked going through it, but what can we do to make it better? Let's look back, evaluate what worked, what didn't work, and then make a change. I mean, that's the only thing that you can do. I was willing to make myself uncomfortable every single day. If you want different results, you have to do things differently.
Got to try.
You got to do it. It's not going to live inside of that box. You have to be willing to get outside of that box, lean into that discomfort. Yeah, it's unpleasant, but lean into it and you'll affect change, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then again, evaluate that change and make sure it's the right change, because it may not be. We were also, we were able to take emotion out of the equation. And I think that that's a critical piece. Many people, 90% of every single decision is based on emotion. It's backed with logic. And unfortunately, in the business world, you have to be able to take a step back and say, you know what? I need to take the emotion back out of this. What is the best outcome for my clients? What's the best outcome for my employees? And then make that decision accordingly. It's not the best outcome for me. It's what's the best outcome for my employees, and therefore what's the best outcome for my clients.
Data drives decisions.
Data drives decisions as long as you're looking at the data correctly.
Correct, because emotional, you can look at that emotionally too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I hate to say it this way too, but let's look at studies. You can take and pick and choose what you take from the studies and then create that emotional twist to make it look like however you choose.
100%.
And that's not helpful either. So you have to be able to read the full study and evaluate what really needs to be adjusted and make those tweaks accordingly. So again, that requires taking the emotion out of it.
You got it.
And doing it accordingly and follow that plan accordingly also. So the other part of it was actually getting engaged in the community. And I think that that's a big part of it as well. And that's quite frankly where Minnesota is lacking, is getting a strong chamber involved, which there is a strong chamber. I'm not trying to discount Bloomington. They actually have a Minneapolis regional chamber that is quite good, and we will be getting involved in that. But here in Troy, the Troy Chamber helped tremendously, getting engaged, networking, participating, learning, and being willing to be coachable, quite frankly. There's a lot of educational pieces that come from the Troy Chamber. There's a lot of networking opportunities that come from the Troy Chamber, and being willing to engage in those, being willing to put yourself out there, which is hard. And quite frankly, going to other networking events as well. I mean, there's a lot out there to stay engaged in the community. You have to have top of mind awareness. If you don't have top of mind awareness, guess what's going to happen when they have that need? They're either not going to know that there's a solution to that need, or they're going to find it elsewhere. So stay in front of people so that they know that you have a solution to that business problem that they may not even know exists.
We're learning from each other at all times.
Absolutely.
And there's
100%.
new products and there's new ideas. And when we get to actually have these conversations and bring them to the table, that's when success happens. It doesn't happen in a bubble.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that unfortunately COVID forced us into that bubble in some ways. I think it's going to be a struggle for some people to get back on track because habits are hard to break. 64 days on average to break a habit. So you kind of have to really push through it and make yourself sometimes, even when you're uncomfortable, lean into that discomfort and do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So,
Well, before we let you go today,
yes, ma'am.
couple words come to mind. Obviously, entrepreneurial. Coachable came to mind.
Right.
And that leads into your new entrepreneurial project that I think you might want to let everybody know about today.
It sounds like a home run of an idea.
We're going to knock it out of the park. What can I say? Yes. So my husband and I are opening up a DBAT baseball and softball academy in Troy. So we're about to sign the lease. We have finalized all areas of the lease, and we should be signing it. Hopefully, what's today? Tuesday. We'll be signing it hopefully this week. And it should be coming out in September or October. So this is an 18,000 square foot indoor baseball facility. We will have 15 tunnels. So 4 of them will have pitching machines, 2 of which will have hit tracks so people can have their hits evaluated. They can also kind of play a little bit. There's a part in there that you can go in and adjust. So you can play in any stadium in the U.S. and you can adjust it even as a 10-year-old and knock it out of the park. You can kind of put a little booster on it and knock it out of the park, which I think is fun. But on the other side, for kids that are looking to improve, we'll have instructors. We're going to have about 15 to 20 different instructors. And we will have, again, 15 tunnels. So 11 tunnels will remain where we can have instruction, where teams can come in and practice, where individuals can come in and practice. Actually, that's what's lacking. The other advice I would give, should somebody look for advice in their area, is look for the gap. Where's there something that you can fill, a need that you can fill? And right now, there's nothing for recreational baseball players. A lot of travel teams have a location where they can practice, and those that don't can certainly come to DBAT Baseball and Softball Academy in Troy, Michigan. But for those that, who knew? But for those that don't have a location to practice, the recreational player, the older people, there's a softball.
Seasoned. Yeah,
absolutely. Seasoned. Seasoned individuals.
Are they owls, old, wise leaders?
Is
that what we're calling them?
I'm just saying. You were still using the word old?
Oh, valid. Yeah, I'm out. It's
Work
fine.
on that one.
It's fine. My bad. Okay.
So for those people will be available as well. So we'll also have a Rawlings and Easton store. So we have found, I have an 11-year-old child who's in travel baseball. We have found that finding certain things at seasonal times, like right now my child needs cleats. And quite frankly, you can't find them anywhere.
Sold out.
They're sold out. So we're looking to, again, fill that need. So we'll have Rawlings and Easton's. We'll store at the front. And again, about 16,000 square feet just for the tunnels, about 2,000 for the store. So 18,000 total. So coming this fall.
That's amazing.
Ribbon cutting.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you. As always, you always knock everything out of the park when you come to visit us and hang out. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it. And thank you for all that the Troy Chamber does. Appreciate it.
Well, guys, that's all we have here today for Members on the Mic with the Troy Chamber of Commerce. For news and upcoming events, please go to troychamber.com. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, Trion Solutions, and have a great rest of your day. Bye
See
now.
you soon.
Take care.